Hello and welcome. Today we are gonna make this lamb bonnet with little lamb ears, and the materials I'm using are this cotton thread. It's like kind of a medium weight, it says medium 4. This is the brand. And then I'm also using this yarn. This is gonna go on the inside of the lamb ears where it's like a different color. This is kind of just the yarn I had laying around, but if I were to buy it for this project, I would probably choose something that's like the same weight as this. I feel like it might make things a little easier, but it doesn't really matter. And then I'm gonna use an 8mm hook for most of the project. For this yarn, I have to use a smaller hook, so I'm gonna use a 4mm. And then I'm gonna use a tapestry needle to sew in the loose ends. And then I'm actually gonna use 2 safety pins, but I'm gonna use them as like stitch markers and scissors. So the first thing we're gonna do is make our magic circle. So wrap the yarn around your hand till it has this like X shape over your fingers, and then go under one, over one, and kind of twist. I'm not the best at showing this, so there's a lot of other videos that do. Okay, and then you chain 1. This doesn't count as a stitch, it just kind of holds everything in place. And then I'm gonna go in the circle and make 12 single crochets. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I just did my 12 single crochets. So now I'm going to pull this tail of the magic circle and close the circle. So now it's much tighter. And I'm going to do a slip stitch. Make sure you're not working with the tail after this. Make sure you're working with the actual yarn. I'm gonna do a slip stitch into the first single crochet. You kind of have to find it. Mine is right there. So do a slip stitch, and that's our first round. So after this, we are going to expand our circle. So to do this, we need 2 stitches in each of the 12 single crochets. And with these 2 stitches in each, so it's going to be 24 in all, we're going to have an alternating pattern of 1 puff stitch and then 1 single crochet. So I'll show you how to do that. We're going to start working in this stitch that I'm currently already in. So I'm gonna chain 1 and then do a single crochet, and then I'm gonna go into the same stitch and do a puff stitch. So to do that, I'm gonna yarn over, pull through, so I have 3 on my hook, yarn over, pull through again, and then do it a 3rd time. And then after I've done it 3 times, I'm gonna yarn over and then pull through all of them at once. And that's the puff stitch. And it looks too chaotic to do all puff stitches, so I alternate puff stitches and then a normal single crochet. So just chain 1 and then do a single crochet in the next stitch. And then we're gonna do another puff stitch. So yarn over. That's 1. 2, 3, and then pull through all of them. And next we are just going to keep doing that. So there's kind of 2 patterns going on, if you want to think of it that way. There's the 2 stitches in each single crochet, and then there's also the alternating of a single crochet and a puff stitch that we're doing. So each stitch is going to have exactly 1 single crochet and 1 puff stitch. I'll do the next one again. So we're going straight into the next stitch with a single crochet, and then the same stitch with a puff stitch. 2, 3. And I'm just going to keep doing that until I reach the end of the round. Don't worry if this hole gets bigger, we can always just tighten it, and as we progress in the pattern, it won't stretch so much. Okay, so this is what I have. After doing all 24 stitches, I am going to slip stitch now into the first of the round that we made. And then I'm just going to chain 1. So this is how it should look, kind of like a scrunchie or like a flower. Okay, so for the next round, we are going to keep expanding the circle. So we're gonna need to make 2 stitches in one, and then 1 in the next, and then 2 stitches in one, and then 1 in the next, if that makes sense. So it's a 2-1 pattern. And at the same time, we're factoring in the 1-to-1 pattern of the puff stitch with the single crochet. So it gets a little more complicated, but nothing too crazy. I'm gonna put a single crochet in the next stitch. And then I'm going to put a puff stitch in that same stitch. So yarn over, pull through, do it 3 times, and then pull through all of them. Okay, and then I am going to do a single crochet in the next stitch, but keep in mind that's going to be the only stitch that goes in this next stitch. And then I'm going to go into the next stitch with a puff. And back into that same stitch with a single crochet. So I'll show once again. So now that we ended on a single crochet in this stitch, we're going to start this one with a puff stitch. And since we did 2 stitches in the stitch of the previous round, we're only going to do 1 in here. So it's going to be 1 puff stitch. And then in the next, we're gonna do 2, and it's gonna be a single crochet and then a puff stitch. So I hope that makes sense. And if you get lost on where you are, you can just look and see what you did in the previous stitch, and then continue the patterns as you go on. And I'll meet back up with you at the end of this round. Okay, so I'm almost done with this round, not completely done, but I just wanted to show you. So my circle is kind of starting to look a little bit wavy, or like not totally flat. Like you can't probably see on the camera, but there's like parts that are raised and then it's kind of going in like a wave. Maybe, yeah, maybe that's better. But anyway, when that starts to happen when you're making a circle, it means that there's too many stitches. So I'm just going to skip this one, kind of inconspicuous looking anyway. And then I'm gonna go into the one here. So I'm gonna go in with my puff stitch. And then since we only did one here, I'm gonna put another one or a single crochet there. And you can kind of see that there's a gap, but it's not too bad because there's like other little gaps. So yeah, I just wanted to show you how to sort of self-regulate if you notice that your circle isn't totally flat. If it looks wavy or curly, it means you have too many stitches. And if it's like going in like a bowl like that, that means you don't have enough stitches, so you should probably increase. So into the next one, we're just gonna do one puff stitch. 3 yarns over and then pull through all of them. And then in this one, we're gonna start with a single crochet and then we have, is that one more stitch? Yeah, it is. Okay. But this one's just gonna have one single crochet. And then we are done with this round. Oh my God. Okay. Beautiful. And I'm just gonna single crochet into this first stitch here. Okay, now I'm going to continue increasing in the next round. I'm gonna chain one, and then I'm going to start in here in the next one. Previously, I'd been working in the one that I do the chain out of, but I'm gonna skip it this time just because it looks like I'm having too many stitches. So I'm gonna go into here, and now our two competing patterns are gonna be, in terms of the circle and widening the circle, we are going to do 2 in one stitch and then 1 in each of the 2 next stitches, and then 2 in the third one, 1, 2, or 1, 1, and then 2 in the third one, if that makes sense. And then in terms of our little like curly sheep pattern, we're gonna keep doing the 1 single crochet and 1 puff stitch. And yeah. So I'm gonna go with a puff stitch first in the next stitch. So yarn over once, twice, 3 times, and then pull through. And then I'm gonna also do a single crochet in that same stitch. And then I'm gonna do a puff stitch here. Pull through. And then I'm going to also just do 1 single crochet in the next stitch. And then in the following stitch, I'm gonna do a puff. As well as a single crochet. So you can see it's 2 in this one, 1 in this one, 1 in this one, 2 in this one, and then at the same time it's puff, single, puff, single, puff, single. And we are going to keep doing that for the rest of this round. Okay, so I am almost done with this round, and now I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of the first stitch that we did to secure it. Okay, so I'm going to do one more expansion round, increase round, So for that, I'm going to chain one, and then I'm gonna skip this one again because I kind of like how it turned out. So I'm gonna skip that, and then this time we are continuing on the circle increase pattern. So we just did 2 in one stitch and then 1 in each of the 2 following stitches. So this time we're gonna do 2 in one stitch and then 1 in the following 3 stitches and then 2 again in the 4th, and then 1 in each of the next 3 and then again. So every 4th we're increasing, and we're also continuing the same 1 puff stitch, 1 single crochet pattern. So can be a little complicated because there's 2 kind of competing things going on, but it's fine. So I'm gonna start in this next stitch. I'm gonna go in with a puff stitch first. Okay. So yarn over once, twice, 3 times, and then pull through all of them. And then I'm gonna go back into the same one with a single crochet. And then just 1 puff stitch in the next. And then single crochet in this one. And then a puff stitch, just 1 in the next. Okay, and then we're at the 4th, so we're gonna put 2 stitches in this one. We're gonna start with the single crochet. And then in the same one, put a puff stitch. So that is how it's looking. I'm gonna do another one, like another 4 again, so you can see. So since we ended on a puff stitch there, I'm gonna go in single crochet into the next one, puff stitch in the next one. We're just doing 1 per stitch right now. And then again, just 1 single crochet into the 3rd. And then we're gonna go in with 2 in the next stitch, and it's gonna be puff stitch first. And then in the same one, a single crochet. So you can kind of get a sense of like how we're dealing with the 2 patterns. It's not so difficult, and again, like if you lose your spot, you can just reference back the previous stitches. So I'm just gonna continue like that until I reach the end of this round. Okay, so I'm finishing this round by, of course, doing a slip stitch into the first stitch of the previous, or of that same round. So we're just gonna close it. And then I am going to stop increasing here because, like I said, this is baby sized, but if you were to continue and if you wanted to make it for an adult or somebody older, you would just keep expanding or increasing the circle. So to do that, like, yeah, you just need to increase. Okay, so for example, on our last round, we increased by putting 2 stitches. So that's like an increase stitch every 4th stitch. So every 4th stitch we increased. So in the next round, you would just increase every 5 stitch. So you would do 2 stitches in one, and then 1 in 4 in the next 4 stitches, and then increase again in the 5th. And then you would increase in the 6th, the 7th, and so on. It's the same pattern pretty much. You just increase, keep 1 more in between. Never mind. Okay, you get it. So since I'm not increasing anymore, I'm just going to put 1 stitch in, 1 stitch in each and every one of these stitches. So I'm gonna chain 1, And I'm going to start with a puff stitch in here. So in the very next stitch. And then I'm gonna put a single crochet in the next stitch after that. And then a puff stitch right after it. So when you're done increasing and you're ready for the hat to kind of start going down, you just stop increasing. So you basically just put one single crochet or one puff stitch into each one of the stitches. You don't put two in any. Okay, so after my first non-increase round, as you can see, it's kind of coming up at the edges. So I'm just gonna do a slip stitch to finish the round off. And then from here on out, I'm just gonna finish or continue the same pattern that I started on, like not increasing. So I'm gonna do one stitch in each stitch going the entire way around. And I'm gonna do that maybe for like 5 or 6 or so rounds until the hat has a good height. And after that, I will meet back up with you. One thing I will add that I just thought of is if you started your last row on, let's say, a puff stitch, then I would put a single crochet on top of it, and then on the next single crochet there'll be a puff stitch on top of it, so it's kind of alternating vertically with each stitch that you go, just so that you don't have an inadvertent like stripe of like all puff stitches going down, and that could look like its own kind of pattern, whereas I just want it to look like wool, so a little bit curly because it's supposed to be a lamb. Okay, so I ended up doing maybe like 5 or 6 rows down. It's gonna depend on the size of your hat, obviously, and the size of your head, but I think this will be sufficient for the baby. And then what I did was I put 2 safety pins kind of as like stitch markers on either side. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16 total in between them, and my thing has 44 total stitches going around. So I don't know exactly what percentage that is, but basically this is like kind of gonna be the opening for the baby's face, and then I'm gonna keep going like around a few more to give it that bonnet shape. So putting my hook back in here, I am going to continue making the same stitches that I've been doing this whole time up until I get to the safety pin. So I ended here on a single crochet, so in the next one I am just going to do a puff stitch, which again was yarning over 3 times and then pulling through. Okay, so I've just made my last stitch before I get to the safety pin. So from here on out, I'm gonna just go back and forth. So not in the round anymore, but just gonna chain 1 and then turn my work and go, okay, so turn my work and then go back around till I reach here. So basically like from here to here is gonna keep increasing or getting longer, and then this part that's like above the eyes is gonna stay where it is. So I'm not sure exactly how many rows I'm gonna do, and obviously everyone's will be different, but just until I feel like it's maybe chin length or something like that. So now that I've turned my work, I'm going to start with a puff stitch because it ended on a single crochet. And then single crochet, so same exact pattern, just going in a row now instead of around. and I will do the next few rows on my own until I feel like it's the desired length. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys, I got to the end of this row until I reached the safety pin. So you can kind of see this isn't the desired length at all. I just did one row, but I kind of just wanted to check back in. So we went from here all the way to here, the next safety pin. And once I got there, I'm going to just chain one, turn my work, and then I'm going to start with a puff stitch in that first stitch. So basically this is all we're doing back and forth, and you can kind of see when I lay it flat like this that there's like this little rim forming. So basically the point is that I want to like make this part come down a little bit, and then there'll be like the ties at the end and the little ears. Okay, so I have reached my desired length of how far down I want the little excess bonnet part to go. I'm making my last stitch right now. So as you can see on this side, there's kind of like a little loop that's there. It's just there naturally because the last stitch I put was a single crochet here, or it's the chain one or whatever, but yeah, so this kind of happened naturally. So make sure that you have something like that when you are at your last row. And then on this side, I'm gonna make sure that I also have something similar. So I'm going to just chain one and then put it in here and slip stitch. So I kind of have this like little space as well. Just any space pretty much that we can like slip the little bow through, or not the bow, but the string to tie it, pulling down. And then I'm going to cut the excess bit off, but leave some so that we can weave the end in and make it secure. So now we are working on the ears. So for the ears, we are going to make a triangle. So we're just gonna start with a slip stitch. So wrap the yarn around 2 fingers, go under, over, pull through, twist, and pull. Okay, so now we are going to get started on the ears. And for this, I'm gonna switch to a smaller hook, 4 millimeters, and I'm going to start with the color that goes on the inside of the ear. So it's this like kind of purple. Now, this yarn is much finer than the one that I'm using for the white one. If I were to buy these specifically for this project, I probably would have chosen yarns that are more similar in weight, but since I'm just using the ones that I already have, I'm just gonna do this, and that's why I'm using the smaller hook. So we are going to make a little triangle using this yarn. So I'm gonna make a slip knot. And then to make the triangle, it's gonna be kind of hard to see with this. Let me zoom in, okay. So I'm gonna chain 2. And then working back in the first chain space, I'm just gonna do 2 single crochets. So it's kind of hard to see what we have here, but I'm gonna chain 1 and then turn my work. And then I'm gonna do 1 single crochet in the first stitch, and then 2 in that following stitch. And if it's hard for you to see, it is for me too, because this yarn is fuzzy, but hopefully the instructions are clear. So I'm doing 2 single crochets here, and then I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. So basically, to make a triangle, you're just gonna go back and forth across each row, and then in the last, you're gonna do 1 stitch in each space, and then in the last one, you're gonna do 2 and then chain 1 and turn your work. So here we're doing 1 in each across the row. And then in this last one, I'm gonna do 1 more. So we have 2. And that's what gives it the triangle shape. So keeping in mind that this is gonna be the inside of the ear, I'm gonna keep going. And everyone's can be a different size. So ultimately, I already did one. Mine's gonna be this size. So I'm just gonna make the inside of the ear like kind of the same size. But yeah, just keep in mind, you don't want it to be as big as you want the entire ear to be. And my ear is pretty small because, again, this is for a baby, but yours can be bigger or however big you want it. So I have my inner ear triangle, and it's the same size as the one I've already made. And then the other thing you're gonna wanna do is make a triangle the same size as this one with the white yarn. So as you can see, they're same size. And don't cut this. We are actually going to layer them now. So I'm gonna put this, the purple, on top of the white, and I'm going to keep going kind of in the round, but triangle shape now, and go through both of them. So I chained 1, turned my work, so I'm gonna go back in. Make sure you get into the corner of the inner ear also. And then just single crochets all around like normal, but make sure you're getting both. Okay. So going into the next stitch, and then going into one of the stitches on the inner ear. If you're using different yarns like me, it might be hard to tell if your stitching is exactly 1 for 1, but it doesn't really matter. I would just focus more on the white part and just make sure you're getting into the inner part. Okay, so when we get to the corner, you are going to put 2 in that corner stitch. At least that's what I like to do, so that it won't curve in on itself. It can like lay flat. And just keep going around. When you're going up and down the sides, it's not as clean cut to see where the different stitches are, so you kind of just have to put your hook in and make a stitch anywhere you can. But don't worry too much about it. Just make sure that you are stitching the 2 together, and it should look like this. I also wanted to show you when you're going down the other side, see how I have these 2 yarns? I'm just gonna crochet over them so that I don't have to weave them in later. So like that. If you can see, just find anywhere and go like with the straight yarn. You're kind of like crocheting around it. Okay, so I've gone around once, and now I'm just gonna keep going around into the white stitches only until it's the same size as this one. So we have this second ear. I've already gone ahead and attached the first one, so now we're gonna do this one. So first I'm going to put the hook through the stitch in the middle, and then I'm gonna fold it in and put the hook through the stitches on either side as well. And make sure the one with the yarn attached is the last. And then using the yarn, I'm just gonna pull all the way through. And then when you have that, go ahead and do like a single crochet, I guess, and then you can pull through. Perfect. And then we are going to attach it here to the other side. I put a safety pin where I want mine to go so that it's completely opposite this one. You have the freedom to put your ears wherever you want on the hat, but mine are gonna be here. So I'm gonna grab my white yarn, put it through the tapestry needle. And then now I'm removing this. I'm just gonna prop the hat open and then put the needle in through one of the stitches. This part's not too precise, and then just put it through both sides of the ear. And then to fasten this part, and honestly, if you were smart, you could just make this much longer when you cut it, but I didn't do that, so whatever. So this has gone through once, and then I'm going to put it in one more time through another spot in the hat. And then I have this kind of like loop, and I'm gonna put the needle through the loop, and that's gonna secure it where it's at. And then I'm going to just go in through the hat again and through the ear. Like I said, this part's not super precise, but I kind of just want it to look as inconspicuous as possible. And when you're making the last one, you can do the loop method again, where you put the needle in through the loop that forms as you're sewing. And then I'm gonna, from here, just go ahead and weave the rest of the yarn in. I'm gonna go through the puff stitches because it's easiest. And then I'm going to cut the yarn and I'm gonna weave this one in too. And so now we are going to make the little straps that go on the side of the bonnet, and these are going to be braided pieces of yarn that are going to go through the open spaces that we left. So to make the braids, you just need to cut individual pieces of yarn that are about twice as long as what you want the braids length to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting that. I'm just gonna make the pieces of yarn like the length of the desk I'm working at. And yours can obviously be as long or short as you want. So I have my two groups of yarn, and what I'm gonna do is basically just take one, I'll start on this side, and shove it through the little opening that is in the corner of the bonnet. and just get like one whole side through so that they're all half in, half out. Okay, just comb through them a little bit, and now make sure they're equal length on both sides, and all you have to do is braid them. So divide the strands into 3 pieces that are roughly even. Okay. And then from there you just braid like you normally would, just alternate putting each side in the middle. So this is my finished hat. I actually repositioned the ears. I didn't like them, they were too far back, so I moved them up, and there was honestly some trial and error getting them in the right position, but yeah, I have faith in you. And then I went ahead and tied the braids with a clear elastic, and I'm just gonna cut the string or the yarn at the end to like make sure they're all like the same length. There it is.